Go ahead, Brother Jalal.
Very well, thank you, Brother Bassam. Good afternoon, Dr. Nushi. I was asking whether you might want to address the issue of separation of church and state, or the discussion involvement of religion with public affairs of a nation. I don't believe in so many lectures that I have had the privilege of being in your audience that you talked about this issue.
What is the issue again?
The concept of separation of church and state. Secularism, I think, I don't know if I'm using the word correctly, secularism versus religious undertone or governance.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. And this is very sensitive issue and very big one. And for a long time, we, as we did with many other things, we simplified it and we made it very superficial, and it became like black or white, which is not true. It's a very complex issue. First of all, there is no theocracy in Islam. There is no person who is ruling on behalf of Allah, and like the kings of Europe in the Middle Ages, when say like the shadow of God, Billallah fil ard. The theocracy, like someone like a government will rule in the name of a religion or impose a religion on people, or and I'm talking about my understanding. And my understanding is that there is no political system in Islam. There are political principles, and these political principles were applied perfectly, almost perfectly, or perfect at the time of the Prophet ﷺ and at the time of Khulafa al-Rashidin. At least until Umar al-Khattab, at least, and if not all, the whole period, because then there was some chaos and some problems. Those principles says basically that in Islam, leadership is or governance is by consent. People should choose their leader, and there is accountability and transparency. The leader cannot withhold information from the people. Should be very transparent. Very few information that can be withheld from people. Has to do like with national security or very detailed things related to the military or some. But these are these are the exceptions. Everything else should be very transparent. And then there is accountability. There should be a system in place to hold people accountable, those who make decisions. That system exists nowhere in the Muslim world nowadays. Does not exist at all. The closest system from what humanity was able to develop, because I know we have principles, these principles were implemented, but we failed to institutionalize what the Prophet ﷺ started in Medina and was confirmed by Khulafa. We did not turn those into institutions. Now, humanity did not stop, went through centuries of different kind of governance, and they come up with this democracy or democratic system, which has, it's not perfect, it has its flaws, but it has many of the Islamic principles implemented, which is leadership by consent, transparency, accountability, and equal opportunity. Of course, different democracy have different flaws, like here in this country, the role of money has corrupted, unfortunately, politics. So it's no longer one person, one vote. It's $1, one vote. That's very unfortunate, but that's not an integral part of democracy. There are countries in the world where the government finance elections and parties, and there is no such thing as lobbyists and donors, big donors, etc. So if we want to do something, we need to start from there. I mean, there is no point in, it's like what we do in science. If we want to do something in science as Muslims, we're not going to reject whatever humanity has developed and say, okay, you know what? We're going to start from scratch. We are not going to have nothing to do with technology and the advances in medicine and etc., because that was done by non-Muslims. No, that's not logic. That makes no sense. So if you want to do something, we start from there and we try to perfect it, inject Islamic values, etc. So no theocracy in Islam. The closest system to the system that was developed by Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in Medina is the system based on constitution and democracy, constitution and citizenship. That's what the document that Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam wrote in Medina. It was a constitution, and in which he acknowledged this idea of citizenship, that all people have equal rights, and then your religion or your beliefs or your faith or whatever does not make you second-class citizen, or does not deprive you from your rights, or does not give a Muslim more rights on you or at your expense. That these statements were explicit in the. So I believe what Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam wrote was a constitution in which he acknowledged this idea of citizenship that we take for granted today. Now, among all the secular systems in the world, maybe the best among them, or the least problematic, if you will, when it comes to the relationship between religion and state, is the American system. Because the French system is extreme secularism to the point they ban hijab. So government is interfering. Government is interfering in the masajid, mosques, who should be elected, and they may reject some people they don't like, or they may push for some people they like. So there is an interference of the government in religious affairs. In this country, I think they came up with a much better system, which is there is nothing prevents you as a Muslim or follower of any faith to be involved in the public affairs. Just turn your values. I mean, don't make it a religious discussion. Turn your values into policies and go and advocate for them, and elect the people who will implement them. Example, we don't like gambling because gambling is haram. We cannot go to the public sphere and start talking, say that gambling is haram. We can't, because that's not a common language. But what we can do, as we did one time, I remember, we can go do our homework, show the damage that gambling does in a city or a state or a neighborhood, and then advocate for banning it or advocate against it. And then when we're going to elect or choose an official or elect officials, we can ask them about what's your stand on this issue, and what's on your stand on that issue, and to elect those who are closer to our civic platform. This is very allowed here. That's why all the religious groups in this country, they are involved in public affairs, and they have their agenda and they're pushing for it. But you have to use a secular language, not a religious language, because religion is not the common ground here. If people are going to start having religious agenda, this country can go into civil war in no time, like any other country in the world. Because even countries that are all Muslims, there are Sunnah and Shia, there are people follow different madhab. If everybody is going to push for their madhab or their whatever sect, we're going to have another Iraq and another whatever, Afghanistan and another, that's going to, or Lebanon, and that's not, I think, what we want to happen, or what we should aim for. So bottom line, I believe that Islam guarantees all freedoms and liberties, give people the right to choose their leader. Islam promotes civic engagement more than any other faith. It made it the mission of believers. It's Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy al Munkar. What is Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy al Munkar? It's civic engagement. How can you promote good in a society nowadays if you're not civically engaged? So, and Quran emphasized this idea of tadafa, people pushing and shoving, groups pushing and shoving one another, and you can see it here. You can see it that sunnah of tadafa is really being implemented, that people with different agendas, with different views, and they're pushing, and they're trying to get their idea through. And there are many people, a lot of groups are successful. And if we are not, then we only have ourselves to blame. We don't want to be like the people of Musa alayhi salam. We don't want to say that, no, we're not going to get civically engaged until everybody is out, so that we come in. قالوا إن لن ندخلها حتى يخرجوا منها فإن يخرجوا منها فإننا داخلون. Musa alayhi salam asked his people to go into the Jerusalem, and then they said, no, there are very strong people, mighty people there. We're not going to go. Tell them to come out, and then inshallah we'll come. That's very, Quran mentioned in a very ridiculing that attitude. So we shouldn't adopt that attitude. The field is there. Get engaged. Don't expect quick results. It's not going to happen. But as we all know, there are a number of groups who pushed their agenda and succeeded. We mentioned a lot of time. We mentioned the anti-smoking groups. Great success story. People, they changed the laws and the social norms. This is something that we witnessed. We witnessed that non-smoking was the exception in this country, and we saw it become the norm. The smoking became the exception. That didn't happen overnight, and these people, they had to fight tobacco companies who are pouring hundreds of millions of dollars in lobbying, and people were making fun of them when they started those groups. People were making fun of them. What are you doing? You will go nowhere, because you are fighting against those very powerful tobacco companies, and so on and so forth. There are other groups. So bottom line, I think we are in ideal situation, and we shouldn't worry a lot about theoretical or hypothetical situation. We are in a place that is ideal for people who have religious values to advocate them in the public sphere. Nothing prevents people in this country from advocating their agenda, even if it has a religious ground or religious foundation.
Thank you.
Sure.
Can I have a different question, please? The other day when this message came about the passing of the brother, and if I read it correctly, it would say, Ana lillah and Ana ilayhi raji'un. Would that, the correct pronunciation be Ana or Inna?
Inna.
Okay.
Inna. We belong to Allah, and to whom we will return.
It would be a plural use, all of us, not singular like me alone, Ana lillah.
No. Inna, we.
Inna, we.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Said.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Is better for the Muslim community in the United States to ask to be secular country or separate church or state, or we should go the other way around? Because most of the Muslim organization right now, they are going with the liberal agenda.
Yeah, but these are two different issues. The first issue is the word secular, by the way, has a very negative connotation among Muslims, and it should not. The word secular is not something bad. It's not necessarily negative. It means mostly that the government should have no say in religious affairs. So, especially the American secularism. The American secularism does not prevent a religious community from being involved in public affairs. It prevents government from interfering in religious affairs. So it shouldn't be, because I know the word secular and secularism among Muslims triggers some very negative reaction. It's like anti-Islam. That's not true. Secular means, at least the American secularism, is government hands-off religion. Don't come to the mosque or to the church and tell people what to do or how to worship or whom to choose if they elect. That's the meaning here. So we have to be careful, because there are a lot of literature there that says or defines secularism as if it is anti-religion or anti-Islam. That's not true. And I believe in this country we shouldn't ask for anything. And this is what we want. This is what the Prophet ﷺ asked in Mecca. Leave me alone, give me the right, the freedom of worship and the freedom of conscience and the freedom of conveying my message or promoting my da'wah, my message. And all of these are guaranteed here. So I don't think we need to, why fixing it if it is working? The only thing that probably we should join hands with others and work for is to reduce the role of money in politics, so that to perfect the democracy in this country and to stay away from or reduce this idea or this concept of public official for hire, that they respond to whoever pays more. It's so some people, some American academic scholars, they say it's became like legalized bribery. So that's probably, perfecting, but this country will not survive or prosper, and these are the goals of Muslims wherever they are. They want that place to prosper and to thrive. This country will not survive with any other system other than this one. This is the most diverse country in the world. All religions, just name it and it is there. All religions are community that are organized. They have their worship place, they have etc. If this country drifts from this secular system, it will disintegrate. And that's not what Muslims want. Muslims should be, whatever they settle, should be a blessing to that society and to that country. So actually, it should be the other way around. If we found a country that is in chaos, we should be the ones who bring stability. But if we find it stable, we shouldn't mess up with it, even if we can. Work to make the system more just, yes. Work to reduce the role of money in politics, yes. Work for better and more fair and ethical foreign policy, yes. More just, yes. But other than that, don't try to shake the foundation of the system, even if you can. Now you can't even. But even if you can, We shouldn't try to do that. This system is ideal for Muslims who understand their religion properly, who want to fulfill their mission. Nothing prevents you in this country from being very good Muslim and very active Muslim and fulfilling your mission to the best of your ability. Nothing. It's an ideal environment for that. It's not, the system is not perfect. System is not ideal, it's not perfect, but it doesn't need to be changed. It needs adjustments and improvements.
We take the question from Sister Asma, but I want from Mr. Hugh to prepare himself to talk about same issue after Sister Asma finish her question. Go ahead, Sister Asma.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Talking about secularism, you said it's not anti-religion like most of the Muslims think, but their philosophy basically is kind of a very materialistic and liberal, and so it does clashes with a lot of religious, stuff, rules and everything. So basically, I think, especially I'm from Pakistan, so when British colony was there and they conquered the subcontinent and everything, they introduced secularism, and it's not by definition it's not anti-religion. They say that it's very liberal and promoting all the religions, but basically it has a materialistic and very liberal and progressive philosophy based on individual and all that. So that makes it a bit anti-religious. I think that is the concept.
That's a very good point and very good question. Sister, secularism is a system. It's like a container. You can fill it with any value system. So you can fill it with materialistic, you can fill it with the Christian, you can fill it with Islamic value, you can fill it with any values. It's like, you can have something that almost all technologies can be used for a good reason and can use for bad reason. I mean, the same technology that treats cancer is the technology that produces nuclear bombs. It's the same technology. It's the nuclear chemistry or nuclear physics. It's the same science, same technology, same equation, same everything. They can be used to treat people with cancer, and they can be used to create nuclear bombs and destroy countries and cities and lives. So saving lives, destroying lives. Secular system, it's like a container. It's nothing inside. It's a mechanism. It says that government should not be involved in religious affairs. I'm talking about that type of secularism. And then in different countries, you're right, it can be filled with different value system that will be the most dominant. But secularism does not contradict with Islamic values. I mean, you can have a secular system driven or fueled by Islamic values. There is nothing that prevents that from happening. Nothing in the secular system that is against the justice of Islam or against the equality, or no, actually it's the other way around. So
positively, so would you say that, if that is the literal meaning is being progressive and liberal, would you say that the Prophet ﷺ practiced that in his government when he was governing Medina as a statesperson as well? Or because what my philosophy, my thinking is, this is all the values are coming from the nature, and everybody has their own desires, and every culture will project their desires, and that would be opposite of what in Islam it's submission to the rules of Islam, and here secularism is submission to your desires and do whatever you feel like kind of approach. So
no. As again, secularism does not have values. Secularism is a system. It's like democracy. Actually, we're talking more about democracy more than secularism. it's a system of governance. How to choose leaders, how to hold them accountable, how to ensure transparency, how to ensure check and balance, how to prevent dictatorship, how, etc., etc. It's a mechanism. Now, what's the value system that you're going to put inside? That's something else. That's different. All what I'm saying is there is no contradiction between Islamic value and democratic system. None. Actually, there is a lot in common. There is a lot of overlap. If you ask me about the Prophet ﷺ, I believe the Prophet, when he had the chance or the need, he established a state based on constitution that he wrote and citizenship. It was not institutionalized. There was no parliament. There was no election. There was something called bay'ah that people...
Shura?
There was shura, yeah. There was consultation, but it did not become an institution. Rasul ﷺ used to consult extensively about every decision he makes. He used to gather people and keep asking, just tell me what you think, etc., and keep bouncing opinions, etc., until they come up with a decision. That's what happens in parliaments nowadays. So at that time, there was no need for that institution. It was a small community in Medina. You can gather them with one adhan. Somebody goes and say, come to the masjid, and everybody will come. And then you can conduct that in very informal way. But it was real. It was not formality. So the Prophet was not doing this just like, no, it was real consultation. And that's why he changed his mind a number of times. He has an opinion, but after consultation, he come up with a different decision. So we did not institutionalize that, but humanity eventually was able to do it. That discussion that the Prophet ﷺ used to conduct in a mosque, nowadays it is being conducted in a parliament or Congress or whatever. So there is no contradiction. The Prophet has special role because he was receiving revelation. That's something that ended with him. Anybody who came after that does not have that special status. That's why the Prophet, the people, when they were dealing with the Prophet, they used to ask a question. They did not ask it after him. Whenever he says something, they will ask him, are you saying this in your capacity as a prophet or in your capacity as our leader? Because if he tells them that this is something he's doing in his capacity as a prophet, they're not going to discuss. Because that's something that it's a revelation that he has received. But most of the time, 99% of the time, he used to tell them, no, that's my opinion. The moment he say that's my opinion, they say, okay, we have a different opinion. And then the discussion opens. That question was not asked after him because Abu Bakr as-Siddiq did not have that status. So whatever he's saying is an opinion. And that's why people from day one, they were discussing with him everything he says, because they know that he doesn't have that special status of receiving revelation. Yeah. So he says something and people, Umar ibn Khattab objected to some of his decisions or some of his opinions. All what they're saying is we should really revisit this idea of secularism is something that is anti-Islam or anti-religion. Democracy is not compatible with Islam. Islam has a different political system. That's not true. Doesn't have political system. That Khilafah is not the Islamic system. That Khilafah is a system that Muslims came up with. I'm talking about the dynasties, not the Khilafah Rashida. That's the Khulafa Rashidin, the guided Khalifa, where during their time, the Islamic political principles were implemented. But after that, no.
So there's no...
After that, it's a called dynasty. You can call it, you can call Khalifa the Umayyads and Abbasiyin, etc., but they're not.
Right. So my question is then finally, the Khilafah that they talk about was the Sunnah of the Prophet. I mean, like you said, the Prophet had the separate spatial privileges being a prophet, but did he ever in his lifetime advise Muslims and the Sahaba that what kind of a government they should have, you know, after he's gone.
He didn't have to, because he implemented it. It's in front of them that he wrote the Constitution of Medina.
But
And read,
kingship is over, right? In Islam, kingship was over. You know, being like with Dawood alayhi salam and all that is over. So then the form of government, would you say, is the Khilafah that is recommended by the Prophet?
no, there was nothing recommended by the Prophet. It's Muslims have to have a leader after him, and that's what they did. They knew that they cannot be without leadership, and that leadership has to be chosen. These are the principles, but there is no exact system. There is no exact system, because Muslims did not feel the need to institutionalize a system that was working. It was working in front of their eyes, very extensive consultation. People have a say, absolute transparency, to the point that somebody like Umar al-Khattab, with his charisma and with his very strong personality, people will stop him. They say, we're not going to listen to you until you tell us, how did you come up with this dress that you have, even though the piece of cloth that you got does not allow you to get this long dress that you're doing, that's long kameez or whatever that you're wearing.
Right.
And then he asked his son to come and to tell them that he gave him his part and he may join the two. Now they say, now you can talk. That's the kind of transparency and accountability. So, but what we failed to do is not to leave that depending on the individual who is ruling and depending on the good people of the Medina. We should have turned into an institution so that we failed in the transition, we failed, and we went back to dynasty. We became like everybody else, like the Roman at that time, the Persian, everybody else, they have dynasty. So we start having a dynasty like them.
Jazakallah.
Yeah.
Brother Hugh, do you have anything about the secularism in the view of the church, right now in America?
Well, the idea, the Constitution says that the government will establish no religion as the state religion. So that's really this idea that Dr. Suhail was talking about is this container. When he was talking about that, the illusion that came to me, or the image that came to me, was a garden, a ground. If you clear all the soil there, that would be like secularism. You've cleared the soil of other plants. Any plants can grow, and you can plant anything. You can plant whatever plants you want. You can plant the values of Islam, or what I would call the true values of Christianity. And if not, other weeds are going to spring up in that area. And so the secular situation does not say this is more valuable than that. It just says it's open to everybody. So there's one of my concerns is that religious leaders, certainly Christian and other religious leaders, their voices are not strong enough in our community to put out these values of love God and love your neighbor, and even love those who don't believe in God. So the United States right now, its democracy is really under attack internally by demagogues, by people who would say, let me get into power and then turn it over, make it into a dynasty, so to speak. We are in danger of that right now. And but the basic principles are everybody is welcome, it's inclusive, but people are challenging that and saying, no, we want to push some people out and so forth. That's what's going on right now in our election system. And so that's what we need to fight for. The ideal is here, putting it into practice. And as Dr. Ghannouchi was saying, it's not a perfect system. We have work to do to perfect it. It was only recently in the last 8-10 years that democracy has really been challenged by a demagogue, somebody who would take over the whole government, doesn't believe in democracy, but would use democracy to get into power and then bend that power to their own will. So that's what's going on in the United States right now. Again, I would emphasize there's an ideal of secularism, meaning everybody can be here. Islam can grow, Christianity can grow. Of course, other weeds can grow too. There's work to be done, though, to make it more perfect.
That's a great analogy. I can't agree more. I mean, Muslims should be really aiming for the secular system, the right way, the right definition, which is that the government does not interfere, does not dictate on people what to believe or what to worship, etc. And you can see Muslims all over the world are enjoying that. They flee Muslim countries to find themselves in the United States or Canada or Sweden or Denmark, etc., having their own mosques, organizing their own affairs. Nobody interferes with them, which is very awkward. That you go, you flee, you are a Muslim, you are fleeing a Muslim country because you could not practice your religion freely, or you cannot express your opinion freely, and you go to a secular country, and then you find all the freedom that you are deprived of, and then you come and say secularism is bad. So what do you want here?
Go ahead, Sister Sisma.
No, I just wanted to, but the brother just mentioned about the analogy that it's like a garden, you're clearing away everything, like a clean slate, right? For the different diverse cultures. And my question is, every culture, every religion will come with a different set of moral values. So won't there be a clash? And do you think is that a I mean, there is a common morality on which all human beings interact and all that, but still I'm saying, every group, every diverse group will have the independence and freedom to do whatever they feel like, so that there will always be a clash in morality, one more. Yeah. How do you tackle that?
That's a very good point. The big achievement of the democracy is to make that clash happen civically and peacefully, rather than turning into civil war, like in many countries in the world nowadays. That clash, unfortunately, we have a country like Iraq, almost everybody is Muslim, but because they follow different sects, they're clashing. But they're not clashing civically. They're clashing with weapons. Yeah. The biggest achievement of democracy is saying, this is a diverse society. We have different opinion. We are advocating for different policies. This is the system to settle those differences. Go, try to convince the public opinion, win the public opinion to your side, try to elect those who will implement your agenda or your policy, but also you have to accept defeat. You have to have sportsmanship, as they say. If you do that and you lose, that's it, tough luck. Now just go and reassess, see what you need to change, and then resume. So you're right. There will be never a society in which, actually there is no family, in which everybody thinks alike. Not a society. And I keep always mentioning that twin people were two individuals born the same moment, same time, raised in the same house, went into the same school, same neighborhood, and they come different in thinking. You find different personality and different priorities and different hobbies and different major when they go to school. That's the nature. That's how Allah created us. The question is, how do we settle our differences? Democracy, that's the best people were able to come up with. Because the alternative to democracy is what? The alternative to democracy is might makes right. And whoever has the power, the force, will impose their will on the others. Or civil war. The alternative nowadays, at least as far as we came as humanity, the alternative to democratic system is dictatorship or chaos and civil war. And it's for us to choose. Let's not dream of another ideal system in which, no, up to this point, that's what humanity was able to come up with. We hope, and we should try to move to a better system. Like Churchill said about democracy, it's the worst unless it is compared with others. It's the worst system unless it is compared with others, because when you compare it with others, say, no, it's good. Let's leave it as is. Do you want any of those alternatives? Because we look at the map, bring the world map and take a look at it. You will find that the only alternative nowadays to democracy is dictatorship or civil war.
Yeah, but there is a problem with democracy too. You know, majority is the authority, but what if the majority is not able to have a clear thinking and, you know, good concept about in Islam, the shura was the main thing, and the people were elected for the shura, and they were the competent people who would decide. So I think there is also a problem with the democracy. We have to improve this democracy.
Nobody said democracy is perfect. We're saying this is what is available now. I mean, show me better system in practice, not in theory. Show me a better system in practice. Nobody said democracy is perfect. Democracy has its own flaws, and it can be bigger. They can, if people don't protect it, governments always try to get more power, and majority always try to impose its rule. That's the nature of things. So what's the solution? Ban the whole system? No. Solution is to try to perfect it, try to protect its foundation from bigots, from racists, from any challenge to the foundation, and then try to work on because there are flaws. I mean, there is some justice in this country. There is no question about it, but it's not perfect. So what you need is islah. Islah meaning perfecting things, improving. But let's forget about this idea of if something is not perfect, let's collapse it or destroy it, and then we'll figure out a better system. No, that's not even permissible in Islam. In Islam, you want to fix something, you make it better.
What I meant was just check. We should have some checks and balances. You know, I think the founding fathers of this country had, but it got lost over the years.
That's true. That's true. That's why, as Brother Hugh said, there is a lot of work needs to be done to fix those deviations or those flaws, and then to prevent more, because there is a trend pushing for more, for making it worse. There are people running for office and say they're going to do mass deportation. There are people who are running for office and they look down at others' ethnicities and races. So it can be worse. I mean, if we don't do our homework, it can be worse. Because other people will not stop pushing for their agenda if you are not there. If you're not there, if we are not there, we only have ourselves to blame. So I think we are in agreement. I'm saying this is the best that humanity was able to come up with, but it's not perfect. It needs work to protect what is still there, and maybe to regain some of the things that were lost. But I think I don't see any better system in the world nowadays. If anyone wants to come up with a better system, they have to start from where humanity ended. And humanity ended with democracy. You start from there, perfect, improve, but don't don't destroy that for an illusion in our mind that you don't see it anywhere. And we show me in this whole world any country that does not fall in one of these three categories. It is either democratic or dictatorship or in chaos and civil war.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Suhail.
وعليكم
Inshallah,
السلام.
I'll see you next Sunday, inshallah.
إن شاء الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
عليكم السلام.
Jazakallah kulli khair.